They say memory softens with age, that time acts like a gentle erosion on the sharp cliffs of our past, smoothing them into something bearable. I find the opposite to be true. The trivialities of my present life, the name of the nurse who brings my morning tea, the day of the week, the weather outside my window, these dissolve like sugar in hot water. But the war is etched in acid. It has no blur. It has no mercy. I close my eyes, and I am not a withered woman in a wicker chair. I am 22, and the smell of the Bodleian Library is so thick in my nostrils I could choke on it. I remember the dust motes dancing in the shafts of cathedral light that pierced the high windows of Oxford. It smelled of beeswax, decaying paper, and the dry, crisp scent of intellectual vanity. We sat there heavy with the self-importance of youth, debating the categorical imperative and the fragility of the social contract while the world burned across the channel. I believed then that logic was a shield. I believed that if you could deconstruct an argument, you could dismantle a tyranny. I treated the rise of fascism like a flaw in a philosophical thesis, something to be corrected with a red pen and a stern lecture. How arrogant we were. How beautifully, stupidly arrogant. That memory shifts, violently replacing the golden light of the library with the suffocating gray of the cellar in Lyon. The smell is the first thing to change. Gone is the beeswax, replaced by the reek of unwashed wool, damp limestone, and the metallic tang of fear that radiates from human skin. My ordinary world had shrunk from the sprawling campuses of academia to a room 4 paces wide and 6 paces long, buried beneath a bakery that had run out of flour weeks ago. I sit at a rickety table that wobbles if I breathe too heavily. My hands, once stained only by fountain pen ink, are now ingrained with the grime of a city that has stopped washing itself. I look at them, these young hands, and I feel a detachment, as if they belong to someone else. A girl who plays the piano, perhaps. Not a girl who carries a cyanide pill in the hollow of a false tooth. The fear is not what you might expect. It isn't the fear of death. At 22, death is an abstract concept, a tragic romantic ending that happens to poets. Not to me. No, my terror is far more specific, far more academic. It is the fear of my own mind. They recruited me for my memory, for the way I could glance at a page of troop movements and retain it with the fidelity of a photograph. But in this damp cellar, my gift has become my burden. I am a walking archive. I hold names, addresses, drop zones, frequencies. If they take me, if the men in the leather coats put me in the chair, I cannot simply forget. I cannot choose to unknow. My mind will betray me, and in doing so, it will murder a dozen good people. I am not afraid of dying. I am afraid of living long enough to speak. I try to apply the logic of the university to the chaos of the occupation. I tell myself that if I follow the rules, if I adhere to the tradecraft, the variable of capture remains statistically low. But the dampness in the walls laughs at my statistics. There is a radio set in the corner, hidden inside a hollowed-out stack of encyclopedias. The irony is not lost on me. Knowledge hiding the tools of war. I am waiting for the transmission. The silence in the room is heavy, pressed down by the stone ceiling. Outside, above the street level, I can hear the dull, rhythmic thudding of boots on cobblestones. It is a sound that vibrates in the teeth. A patrol. They are close enough that I can hear the low murmur of their voices, though not the words. I stop breathing. It is an instinct now, to become inanimate when the boots pass. I turn my attention to the task. The message arrived not by radio this time, but by a courier who looked barely old enough to shave. A slip of paper, tightly rolled, smelling of tobacco and sweat. I smooth it out on the rough wood of the table. It is gibberish. Groups of 5 letters, meaningless and chaotic. I pull the silk handkerchief from my pocket, the one printed with the one-time pad codes. The decoding is a slow, tactile process. My pencil scratches against the rough paper of my notebook. I force myself to focus on the mechanics of it, the substitution of letters, the mathematical stripping away of the disguise. It is the only time I feel like myself again, a student solving a puzzle. Becomes, rendezvous. The pencil point snaps. The sound is small, but in the silence, it feels violent. I stare at the broken lead. my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I pick up a knife and sharpen the wood, the shavings curling onto the table like dead leaves. I must be precise. There is no room for interpretation here. I continue. The letters unveil themselves, stripping away the safety of the code to reveal the naked danger underneath. And then the location. I stop. The pencil hovers. Paris, the belly of the beast. Lyon was dangerous, but it was the danger of the fringes. Paris is the center. Paris is where the Gestapo has settled in like a heavy meal, digesting the city slowly. I finish the line. I look up from the paper. The damp air of the cellar feels suddenly thin, insufficient to fill my lungs. I am to leave the shadows of Lyon and walk into the spotlight of the capital. I am to meet a contact I have never seen in a public place swarming with informants, to coordinate the destruction of a railway line that is currently the Wehrmacht's primary artery. I strike a match. The smell of sulfur flares, sharp and stinging. I hold the flame to the corner of the decoded message and the original cipher. The paper curls, blackens, and dissolves into ash. I crush the ash with my thumb, grinding it into the wood of the table until nothing remains but a smudge. The mission is on. The student is dead. The spy must now walk out the door. You are not Alina Vance. Alina Vance is a fiction. You are merely a vessel for the cover. Check your reflection. Check your silhouette. Is anyone matching my pace? Is the car slowing down behind me? Do not look at the soldiers. Do not look away too quickly. Walk, just walk. Le Figaro with a red scarf on the table. There, in the corner booths. The scarf is a bright wound of color against the dark wood. The man is looking down at his paper. I take a step forward, relief washing over me again. Then I stop. My photographic memory, that curse and blessing, snaps a picture of the room. It freezes the frame. Two men at a table near the door. They are wearing trench coats that are too new, too clean. They are nursing coffees that have gone cold. They are not talking to each other. Their eyes are not on their cups. They are watching the man with the red scarf. And then, one of them shifts. The coat falls open just an inch. I see the dull gleam of a shoulder holster. I look back at my contact. He lifts his head. His eyes meet mine. There is no recognition, only a wide, terrified warning. He knows. The trap has snapped shut, and I am standing in the jaws. If I turn around now, the movement will be flagged. Predators track motion. If I leave, the man with the red scarf remains. He will finish his coffee. He will walk out, and they will take him before he reaches the metro. They will break his fingers, then his ribs, and finally his mind. He knows the locations of 3 radio operators in the Loire Valley. He knows the drop zones. If he falls, the silence will spread across France like gangrene. I cannot let that happen. The logic is absolute. The variable must be changed. I take a breath. It tastes of stale smoke and fear. I am no longer Alina Vance, the girl who spent her afternoons debating Locke and Hume in the common room. I am a weapon wrapped in a cardigan. I have to enter the cave. I walk past the bar. The zinc counter is slick with spilled beer. An old man is coughing into a handkerchief, a wet, rattling sound that grates against my nerves. I keep my eyes soft, unfocused. I am navigating the room with the careless drift of someone who has nowhere to be. But my mind is a targeting computer. I am measuring distances. I am calculating vectors. The 2 men in trench coats are statues of violence waiting to animate. They are close to the aisle. On the table next to them, a businessman has left a carafe of vin ordinaire, 3/4 full. It sits precariously near the edge. That is my fulcrum. I move. I do not hesitate. I let my foot catch the heavy iron leg of a chair. It is not a stumble. It is a surrender to gravity. I throw my weight forward, my arms flailing in a pantomime of panic. My right hand sweeps out, seeking the glass. I make contact. The carafe tips. It falls. It shatters against the floor tiles. But not before launching a tidal wave of dark red wine across the pristine gray trench coat of the Gestapo officer. The sound of breaking glass is a gunshot in the crowded room. Conversations sever. Heads turn. The café freezes. I do not give them a second to process the image. I launch the offensive. I gasp, a loud theatrical intake of air. I drop to my knees, grabbing a handful of paper napkins from the dispenser, and I attack the officer's coat. I am scrubbing, dabbing, making it infinitely worse. The wine soaks into the wool, a bloodstain that will never wash out. I start to babble. High-pitched, frantic French, the dialect of the Paris streets, not the lecture halls. I apologize over and over, blaming the floor, blaming my shoes, blaming the alignment of the stars. I am shrill. I am annoying. I am filling the air with noise, drowning out the tension with sheer, unadulterated stupidity. I invade his personal space, my hands fluttering like panicked birds near his face, smelling of cheap lavender and desperation. The officer roars. He jumps up, shoving my hands away, cursing at me to stop touching him. His partner is on his feet, his hand hovering near his lapel, his eyes ripped away from the corner booth to stare at the madwoman on the floor. In the periphery of my vision, beyond the chaos I have engineered, I see movement. The red scarf is a blur. The figure slips from the booth. He does not run. He goes toward the kitchen service door. The hinges squeak, a sound lost in my shouting. He is gone. The mission is a success, but the price is due. The officer with the stained coat grabs my arm. His fingers dig into the soft flesh of my bicep, finding the bone. He hauls me to my feet. The performance must hold. It must be granite. I look up at him. My lower lip trembles. I widen my eyes, letting the tears that were born of terror spill over as if they are born of shame. He demands my papers. His voice is a serrated blade. The room is watching. The waiter, the old man's. The lovers in the corner. I am the center of the universe. I fumble with the clasp of my purse. My hands are shaking violently. I do not have to fake this. My body is in revolt. I reach inside. I touch the leather cover of the identity card. It was made by a forger named Davries in a cellar in London. He used a microscope to get the grain right. But Davries is in London, and I am here in the grip of a man who kills for a living. I pull it out. I hand it to him. I hold my breath and I wait for the bullet. He snatches the booklet. He flips it open with a snap of his wrist. The seconds stretch, warping time. I can hear the blood rushing in my ears, a rhythmic thumping that sounds like marching boots. He looks at the photograph, me, but not me. Me with a different haircut, a different name, a different life history typed in stark black ink. He looks at the stamp. He looks at my face, red and wet with tears. I shrink away from him, making myself small. I project every ounce of vapid innocence I possess. I am not a threat. I am a clumsy girl who ruined a coat. I am a waste of his time. He sneers. The disgust on his face is absolute. He closes the booklet and slaps it against my chest. He tells me to get out before he arrests me for public stupidity. I clutch the papers to my heart. I thank him. I turn. It takes every fiber of discipline I possess not to run. I force my legs to walk. Left, right, past the staring faces, past the smoke. I push open the door and the cold air of Paris hits me like a physical blow. It freezes the sweat on my back. I walk to the corner. I turn right. I keep walking. I count the cobblestones. 1, 2, 3. I do not look back. I weave through the side streets, doubling back, checking reflections in shop windows, ensuring the tail is not there. There is no one. I find the safe house, a small apartment in the 11th arrondissement. I climb the stairs, my legs feeling like they are filled with light. I unlock the door, slip inside, and slide the bolt home. And then I break. I slide down the door frame, collapsing onto the floor. The tremor starts in my fingers and seizes my entire body. I am shaking so hard my teeth chatter. I wrap my arms around my knees, rocking back and forth in the dark. I can still smell the officer's cologne. I can still feel the bruise forming on my arm. I survived. The equation balanced, the variable held. But as the night wears on, and the adrenaline fades into a cold, gray exhaustion, a different kind of fear settles in. I move to the small desk by the window. I look at my reflection in the dark glass pane. I went to university to study the truth. I believed that the world was built on rational principles, that if you analyzed history and politics deeply enough, you could find the moral bedrock of civilization. I thought the mind was a tool for revealing reality. But tonight, I used my mind to construct a lie, and it was flawless. I looked into the eyes of evil, and I did not fight it with a sword or a gun or a philosophical argument. I fought it with deception. I became a caricature. I manipulated a man's instincts against him. And the most terrifying part was not the fear. It was the ease. It was how natural it felt to shed my skin and become someone else. I am an old woman now. The war is a ghost that sits in the corner of my room. My shelves are full of books, history, philosophy, logic, but they are just paper. I know the truth now. The harvest is ruined. You can plant the seeds of knowledge, you can tend the fields of academia, but when the storm comes, the wheat does not save you. Only the weeds survive. I realized that night that civilization is not a fortress. It is a stage play. And to keep the curtain up, to keep the lights on, we had to become actors in the dark. I sacrificed the integrity of my own identity to preserve the idea of freedom. I broke the machine of my own morality so that others could keep theirs running. I look at the degree on the wall. It certifies that I am a master of arts. But my true mastery was in the art of becoming nothing. The student died in that café. The spy walked out. And I have never been able to find the girl who believed in the truth again. Intellect is a weapon. Freedom requires you to become someone you never thought you could be. The ultimate victory is not just surviving the battle, but returning from it with the wisdom to know why it was fought. This memory is a shard of glass I carry. Help me pull it out. Subscribe to keep this history alive.